Look at what Mark Carney's doing. Now, he has the advantage of being the prime minister at a time of crisis. But my God, is he milking it?
The Liberals have done it again. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today I'm going to blow your mind with this one because the Liberals think it's better to not jail criminals because it's too expensive. We also got the Conservatives coming out with one of the best, if not the best campaign ad ever. We got Liberals caught doing more dirty tricks with campaign signage, rampant Palestinian protesters, and more stories coming from Canadians. Let's jump into this. Starting off this episode here, we got a new Abacus data poll coming from Sharia Tees. This one showing 42% Liberals, 38% Conservatives. This gets interesting though, because if we look at this one, we got Pleb posting this as Pierre versus Mark Carney, view counts for their rallies on Cpac. This is as of April 12th yesterday. Shows Poilievre at 450,000 people for his rallies versus Mark Carney at 150,000. As Pleb says here, 3 times more views than Mark Carney. Pierre's rallies are way bigger. Then we've got this one here, which is interesting. So this is a new poll that came out from Nanos, and it's not the Nanos poll that's interesting. If you want to see the poll, it's here. It's Liberals 43.3, Conservatives 37.1. What's most interesting about this is not the Nanos poll. It's this AI analysis of all the polls and who AI thinks is going to win. So this guy says, bullcrap, my work with AI concludes the following. Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives are likely to win a strong majority with 179 to 191 seats. Here's why. So it goes on to talk about the engagement. Poilievre versus Carney, 1.5 million to 2 million engagements versus 400,000 to 600,000 for Mark Carney. And then talks about crowd size, 5,000 to 12,000 attendees for Poilievre's versus 1,000 to 4,000 for Mark Carney. Also says there's momentum in key regions like Brampton, there's 5,000 to 8,000 crowd, which predicts GTA gains. It also says for the polls, Liberals lead 35 to 34, but bias of 2 to 3% pro-Liberal. Going back to 2021, it says 2024 errors. Because of that bias, it also shows the Conservatives could be ahead slightly, strictly on the polling numbers. And we all know from the polls that it's usually older Liberals that will pick up those phones and do those polls, where working Canadians who are going to vote Conservative aren't taking those polls. Plumber's not going to pull out his phone and do a poll for Nick Nanos in the middle of a job. It's just not going to happen. And it goes on to say that the Trump parallel here, like 2024, Poilievre's engagements and crowds indicate polls underestimate his base's turnout, mirroring Trump's rural suburban surge. And I think we're going to get the largest turnout in Canadian history just for raw amounts of votes. And I think a lot of those votes are going to be Conservatives who are pissed off about what the Liberals have done the last 10 years. A very interesting breakdown because we don't see any pollsters take any of this stuff into account. And really only an AI could do this. Next up, we got Mark posting this one here. Danielle Smith absolutely goes off on Mark Carney and the Liberals.
To the new Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, I have one message. Alberta has had enough. Enough with Ottawa trampling over our provincial jurisdiction like Canada's Constitution doesn't exist. Enough with the meaningless virtue signaling climate policies that only make Canadians poorer and threaten our energy security. Enough of their screw the West, we'll take the rest mentality. Enough with their soft on crime policies that let repeat offenders roam the streets on bail. Enough with their unsafe supply, their open border policies, their censorship laws. The list goes on and on.
Ooh, she went off. She went off. Danielle Smith, I stand with her all the way. By the way, I suggest all Canadians do not buy any Brookfield home or condo or tower. That is interesting. Yep. Next up, we have a brilliant campaign ad coming from Andrew Scheer and the Conservatives. As he says, we've all had a buddy who's been there. Life lessons. Don't call your ex. Don't vote for Mark Carney. I should note too, I'll play the music for the first 5 seconds, but then I'm going to have to remove the background noise, which it does take away from it a bit, but that's how it is on this platform.
I'm so glad we locked Vladdy down. You guys aren't texting again, are you? I thought this was over, man. I mean, you said you were out. You were telling me how terrible the last 10 years were. As a friend, I barely even recognize you anymore. You lost your house. They drained your bank account. You maxed out 3 credit cards. You couldn't even afford groceries. And the drugs, man. And we're not talking about half a joint after the kids go to sleep to take the edge off the day. We're talking meth. I mean, that's not you. Oh, they've changed. Yeah, right. Of course they're going to say that. They're going to say anything they think you want to hear. And then guaranteed within a month, it's going to be right back to the same old stuff. And guaranteed they're going to be asking you for money again. What about all those foreign students living in the basement? And that weird arrangement with that guy from Burnaby for 2 years? What was that about? Man, if you think that this is going to be any different than the last 10 years, it's not. This is who they are. Don't be fooled. It's up to you, man. Offshore tax havens? Dude, Bermuda.
That's a great ad. This is really good stuff. Creative. This is premium content. Brilliant. Savage. Friends don't let friends vote Liberal. You got to check this out. So we got Larry Brock posting this. It says, breaking, Mark Carney's handpicked Liberal candidate says the quiet part out loud. They think that locking up dangerous criminals is too expensive. Carney's hug-a-thug Liberal team already voted to give house arrest to arsonists, car thieves, kidnappers, and those convicted of SA.
And while Eric over here is opposed to having people on house arrest, we do have to acknowledge the fact that our prison system is incredibly costly. Housing somebody within the prison system is a huge burden on taxpayers versus having them on house arrest, for instance.
That is absolutely absurd. Just put them to work. Make them work like the rest of us. Have them work for their keep, work for their food. If they don't work, they don't eat. This is not rocket science. Next up, I want to show everyone what we should be doing in our jails in Canada. So this guy here, this YouTuber, Nick Shirley, went to El Salvador. They have the best prison system on earth. And what you're seeing here in this shot is all the prisoners sewing their own uniforms. They sew uniforms for schools. They sew uniforms for the military. They're put to work every single day. And because these prisoners have jobs to do, they feel more fulfilled in life. They don't fight. They produce stuff. Because of everything they produce, it takes that cost down. I'm not sure if it negates the cost completely or if there's a surplus, but they're providing value in the jails.
The prisoners themselves are helping to rebuild the country of El Salvador. Today, I am taking you inside of the world's most unconventional and most productive prison.
So because of YouTuber's video, I can only show a few seconds at a time, but we'll jump through this video here briefly. But every different area, they learn something different. This class here is learning how to be medics. They're learning first aid.
They have a person on a stretcher. They're doing a practice so that way these people are learning how to become medics if needed eventually.
They're learning practical skills that will not only help them when they get out of prison, they could also help people in prison with this stuff. This part of the jail, they have a full workshop. They teach them construction basics. When they get out, they'll have real skills they can use in the workforce. They have a full-fledged farm here too, so there's a bunch of prisoners here outgrowing all the food that they eat in the jail. They have multiple chefs who also learn skills, how to cook, how to prep, how to clean, how to prepare food, all of that. You can see here, they're making tortillas. Once again, here's the big factory where they do all the sewing, and here's some of the finished results. This is impressive. This is what every jail on earth should be doing. I should mention too, all these guys were the toughest, hardest criminals ever. They were absolutely awful. They would fight all the time. And after they switched this system, there's no fights. Everyone's productive. It's so much better for El Salvador. So you can see here, they've got a pond and they catch fish. They trap fish. They're not just growing cabbages and stuff in the fields. As you can see here, the guy caught a fish.
Hola, amigo.
And they've got cows as well. They milk the cows. Fresh dairy for the jail.
Salvador, here we go.
They even have horses there. This I thought to be the interesting. They have mechanics in the jail. They train these people up, and anytime the city has any vehicle breakdown, say if it's a bus or a van or a car, that's a government vehicle, they bring it to the jail and the prisoners fix the vehicle for free. This is such a great system. This is so well thought out. If you're wondering too about all the tools, will they fight with them? Will they hit each other? The farmers have machetes. They have numbers on the handle. So if it says number 3 and you're prisoner number 3, then if you give that machete to someone else and they use it, first off, they'll know that they got that from someone else. The person who let go of that machete or gave it to someone could get into trouble, but they know whose tool is supposed to go with the right person. So they're showing here different sections. They have one for air conditioning, one for transmissions. There's different guys working on different parts of these vehicles. So I'll link up this down below. This is a very interesting video. It's about half an hour long. In fact, we've got liberal boneheads like Sarah Good here saying, oh, it costs too much. Let's just let the prisoners out. No, that's not an acceptable course of action. How about come up with a better idea? Look around the world, El Salvador, and implement that. Put people to work. We don't need freeloaders in jail. Everyone needs to pay their fair share. Just think about this for a second. The liberals say it's too expensive to jail criminals, but then they spend our money on stuff like this. On this episode of Far Off Ripoff, We've got $275 million going to the one and only the World Bank. Yes, the World Bank that lost $41 billion in the books. Oxfam report came out, showed that they don't know where that money went. It just disappeared. It vanished. Does it smell like money laundering? In my opinion, I think this is ripe money laundering. Could we jail a bunch of people with $275 million? Yeah, we could. And how about this one? Canadian Climate Fund for private sector in the Americas. $250 million. There you go, guys. I just showed you over $500 million of funding for jails across Canada. If you take the route of El Salvador, you can get some value back from the criminals. What's this one for? This initiative supports projects across Latin America and the Caribbean focused on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the Caribbean, as in the Caribbean. Look how small the Caribbean is compared to the rest of the world. They have no greenhouse gas emissions. Once again, in my opinion, this project and projects like it are rampant money laundering. And if they do fund projects, they're probably linked to companies linked back to Liberals. So we've got a video coming out of Saskatoon here. Jagmeet Singh having his rally. This is interesting as it says standing room only. Does the CBC need to fact check the numbers? Saskatoon looks like they have some supporters for the NDP. Does that mean Liberal support is starting to slip and the NDP is growing again? Why does Jagmeet, oh, he's dancing too. Why does he pick this music all the time? But I mean, look, there's actually quite a few people there for an NDP meetup. Okay, Jagmeet. I mean, they're actually filled up out the door too. It's given the image that NDP supporters that went over to Liberals are starting to go back to the NDP because they realize Mark Carney is corrupt as heck. And jumping back over to this Nanos poll, we can see NDP at 9.5 here. So the NDP were down at 6. Maybe the NDP are clawing some of that back from the Liberals. Check out this. We've got Andrew Coyne on CBC just blasting Mark Carney.
They're also passing up on the opportunity that so-called earned media reporting affords. Look at what Mark Carney's doing. Now, he has the advantage of being the prime minister at a time of crisis. But my God, is he milking it? You know, he goes out and he does these press conferences and he puts on this very somber face and he announces to the country what's just happened to us. And, you know, I think he gains every time he does that, even though he's not doing it through a YouTube video. You know, he's actually using the media. Well, it turns out that actually helps.
Okay, we got to leave this part there. Thank you all.
Our country needs to wake up. These four remind me of The View. Irrelevant, lost, and fighting like heck for their jobs. Who watches this garbage? No kidding. Got this one coming from Ryan Garrettson. It says, looks like Liberal candidate Joy O'Donnell is putting her signs on people's lawns without permission, but feels if she leaves a letter with an explanation, it could be a mistake and then that's okay. This is absolutely appalling.
All right, guys, as you know, my front lawn has this sign on it. But I wasn't home and some Liberal came and put this sign on my front lawn. Better yet, Joy is out here putting Liberal signs on people's property, even if they have a Conservative sign on and haven't signed up for it. It says your support of Joy's campaign by displaying a sign on your property is very much appreciated. If you did not request a sign, please accept our apologies for the error and contact us for the removal. Liberals are out putting on their signs on people's lawns without their permission for their own political campaign. This is complete bullshit.
Wow, Joy at joyodonnell.ca. That's some pretty dirty politics there. You gotta think maybe that's illegal. That's a little nuts. I'm from Bradford, and from what I've seen, nobody is asking for them. It's kind of hard to imagine with so few deliveries that they could get an address wrong. So next up, we've got a bunch of protester rally stuff. I gotta show this, but I can't play it. Just, this is insane. You can see how many people there are, how many flags. Guys, this is Canada. This is not Palestine. I don't know if anyone told you that. Like, huge rally going through Montreal. And it just gets worse. Look at this. Look how big this flag is. Who made this? I guess this is what happens when you got George Soros and the Rockefeller brothers' money behind you. You can buy gigantic flags. I still don't get it. What is their hope to achieve? I don't know, but they don't seem to care about Canada. Next up, we also got Chris Stacey here. I can't play this video. He's essentially being forced. He was saying that he was going to get arrested just for filming what's going on by the police. He eventually then gets surrounded by police horses. It is just an absolutely insane scene. So he's in the midst of it here. You can see it's just like absolute chaos in here. It wasn't this video, it's another video. He gets surrounded by police horses. The police in this country arrest journalists, not the people blocking major infrastructure. We got this one coming from Sun Duran. Just another crazy story coming out of the GTA.
Listen to this in Oakville.
Around 11 p.m. last night when 3 suspects broke into a home through the front entrance. Freelancer said that they did have a knife and smashed through the front window. The suspects confronted the 2 people who were home at the time, leaving one of them with very minor injuries.
They stabbed him.
The suspects then stole a green Land Rover from the house and fled the scene.
This homeowner was asking for help in a WhatsApp crime group in Oakville. Look at this. Help, help. Home invasion, smashed our windows, stabbed me. He lists his address. People say the police call, people are calling the police. This is what has happened to our country in Oakville, Ontario.
They have a group in Ontario for crime to call out for help. That is how bad our country is now. Just think about that.
Ontario, where people thought this was one of the safest suburbs in the GTA. Now I'm part of 2 neighborhood group watches, 2 group chats. One is focused on crime alerts. One is a neighborhood community watch. All we talk about is what's happening in our communities. People are scared.
This is just absolutely crazy. We cannot have another day, another month, another year of this liberal garbage. I can guarantee you if liberal boomers, CTV watchers were having their houses broken into by these people, they would not be voting for liberal anymore. Next up, we got Right Blend interviewing people on the street, and he just happens to come across a very heartbreaking story from this woman here.
What is the most important issue, do you think, in this election? Like, what's the most important policy position?
Crime.
The crime.
Yes.
And Pierre made some really good points in there about the crime. If you're caught dealing fentanyl a certain amount of times, life in prison, reforming, the 3 strikes you're out. I thought there was a lot of stuff in there, and it's incredible. What's the thing that really got you there?
I lost my daughter.
Sorry.
She was murdered. And I lost my son. He took his own life for mental health. So I'm big on that.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
I was not expecting that answer, but this is real life. And
it is.
And you have been neglected by this government because of these policies.
You have no idea. You have no idea. You have
so sorry.
no idea what
I'm so sorry.
I have to go through.
I'm so sorry.
As a victim,
yeah,
we get victimized time and time and time again.
I'm so sorry.
Like I'm going to the institution for his parole hearing. He's a dangerous offender, and he gets reviewed every 2 years.
With the Parole Board of Canada, I find that I've done some independent court coverage, and I find judges are a certain way, but I find that the Parole Board of Canada tends to be a bit more, in some cases, stringent. Would you?
It's not the Parole Board; it's the government legislation.
Yeah,
this is just so heartbreaking. Lost her daughter and lost her son. It's heavy stuff. This is real stuff. There's a lot of Canadians dealing with real stuff in this country. These liberals don't care that they've caused this absolute catastrophes to these people's lives. God bless this woman. Look at what the legacy of Trudeau Liberals has done to her and her family. I'm literally in tears. We need to get our country back. Next up, we've got Jordan Peterson absolutely obliterating Mark Carney. This is a beautiful thing.
There's 2 tacks you can take to Carney. One is either he's learned that his net zero preoccupation was wrong, which means every single thing he thought while he was being educated and while he had his highfalutin career, every single thing he thought was radically not only wrong, but the opposite of the truth. That's one conclusion. Or he still thinks what he's always thought, which is certainly what it seems to be in his book Values, and certainly seems to be the case with his continuing insistence that we have to hit net zero by 2050 and spend $2 trillion doing it. The alternative conclusion to he was just radically wrong and has learned is that he hasn't learned a damn thing. And it's still his fundamental axiomatic presupposition that human being industrial production leading to carbon dioxide overproduction is an existential threat that should be everyone's top priority for every financial decision that they make, and that everything should be secondary to that. And that implies that his claim to eliminate the carbon tax, for example, and to move Canada onto a more solid industrial footing in the future is just a lie. So those are your options. Either he was completely wrong about everything for the last 20 years in the worst direction possible and has learned, or that he hasn't learned a damn thing and is still sticking to exactly what he wrote in his book Values in 2021 and exactly what he's indicated in all of his public pronouncements. And he's going to act as if he's in favor of Canadian economic development, but he's going to keep pursuing a net zero agenda because that's priority number one. And you peasants are too stupid to understand the reality of the situation that's in front of you.
Wow. Yeah, so that's right on the mark. Mark Carney will say anything to keep pushing forward his agenda, take advantage of people that we saw that early on with him lying about pipelines at Quebec. He'll say anything. It doesn't matter to him. Net zero is his thing. He's come out and said that, he wants to do green energy, carbon capture, all that stuff in Alberta, thinking that would get people excited in Alberta. Mark Carney's an idiot. He's terrible on the mic. That's why they're hiding him away right now. Him campaigning hurts his own campaign. That should say enough for all Canadians to not vote for the guy. What kind of leader avoids people, can't inspire people, can't motivate people, can't use their words because it's obvious the guy is lying? Many of us see it. Unfortunately, there's still a lot of Canadians, a lot of the older crowd who seem to be getting fooled by this for some reason. Next up, we got this one from Captain C63. It says, I want Montreal's Pierre Elliott Trudeau Airport to be renamed. What shall we call it? I've already mentioned this probably 6 months ago. This airport must be renamed. We got to get this stain of a name Trudeau off of the airport. Get it off of everything. For me, ex-Montrealer, it will always be Droval Airport. Sure, change it back to that. William Shatner Airport, Tamara Litch Airport, Stephen Harper Airport, anything but Trudeau Airport. Moving ahead, we've got another story here where police officer in Vancouver, how do I say this? If you go camping and have a campfire, well, imagine if you took that campfire and then you instead had someone put that onto someone. Well, someone put that onto a police officer. I don't want to say the direct words, but you get what I'm saying here. There's footage of it here, and in the corner there, I'm not going to play anymore. So this is an officer here, and this is also an officer here who somebody threw some chemical stuff, which then went poof onto him. That's the state of our country right now, where the Liberals have allowed so much crime to go unpunished that people don't even care about throwing hot chemical igniting stuff onto a police officer. As you can see here, the words I don't want to say, police officer was set. We've known this the entire time. Justin Trudeau changed the laws to the hug a thug, catch and release system, which has decimated Canada with rampant crime. It's just amazing now that they're coming out and saying it.